live.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Zodiac Lounge. I always crack up when I say that. I sound like a carnival barker. But consider us your friendly neighborhood basement speakeasy where anything goes as long as you get in and everybody gets in until you get out. And you probably really don't want to go out because news from their world this week is pretty nuts. These people are out of their mind. It is such a joy to be in our safe little haven here. But bringing up one of my last subjects of news from their world, which was Sharon Osbourne, she got herself in a lot of trouble on her talk show because she's friends with Piers Morgan. And Piers Morgan was not in favor of Oprah's interview with Meghan and Harry. I could care less one way or the other. I'm not interested in any of those people. Um, but there was a big hubbub on her show, and they got into this like giant fight, and then they all made up. All the co-hosts made up, and everything was great. Big kumbaya moment. Then the next thing you know, she's forced to come out and apologize to anybody she might have offended. I get it. It's political. But now the network dropped her because despite the fact that everybody made up on the show and they were kissing and hugging and apologizing and telling each other how much they loved each other and the audience didn't seem to have a problem, the network did. So we're better off in here. We're better off hanging in here. And any of you who attended my live audience broadcast last week, thank you for coming. You see how cool it is to be really in a very safe space where we can all speak freely, have a good time. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got COVID. Nobody got nothing except a little tanked on some great wine and some inspired by some great conversations. So we're going to be doing that perhaps once a month for my Saturday show. But I am going to start teaching my classes in April. And if you're wondering if I'm fit to teach, tonight's broadcast is going to be a little bit of a lesson. Um, Jacqueline Christina was there. She just said it's an awesome space, and it was, and you made it even more awesome with your cheetah print shoes. Um, so I'm starting classes in April. That I wrote in 1971 that continues to evolve every time science makes a discovery and blows the lid off of what used to be a mystery. We're learning a lot about quantum physics and quantum mechanics. I've incorporated that information into the course. So you're getting the latest information. You're learning all the behind the scenes stuff of how miracles work, how spells work, how to attune yourself, how to control each element air, earth, water, fire, and spirit to put yourself at your greatest advantage while you're in this world of chaos. Because whether you realize it or not, we walk out into chaos every day. We constantly project who we are, what we feel. Hi, Andrew. And people don't realize that they're contributing to this giant environment that we're all subject to. So we have to encounter all of that chaotic energy, and then it's up to us to balance it. And one of my first classes is teaching you which muscle groups in your body respond to air, earth, fire, and water. And we go through it. We have candle magic, which is always the crowd pleaser. That's one of my favorite classes to teach, and I can't wait to do that one. Um, Words of power, which are a collection of spells and rituals that are taken from history. Everything is from an historical document, and I can't wait to start that whole series. So stay tuned, and we will have a live audience at Astro West at 102 West 79th Street in New York City. It's one of the finest mineral galleries I've ever been in, and we have a great private space downstairs that holds around 15 people. And in the event we get overbooked, they'll just do another class, but one of them will be live streamed, the others will not. It'll also be available here on Esoteric New York. If you can't make it or don't want to be around other people, that's not a problem. You'll be able to see it through Crowdcast or Zoom. We haven't figured out which platform we're going to use. We want to do the most stable one. But it's going to be great. There is going to be a fee, it's very nominal. And I'm really excited about it. So, tonight's show is about tarot. Now, I've been reading tarot since 1968 professionally. It took me a few years to learn before that. And what I eventually did was just kept on reading. I went into the park, I read cards, people saw me reading, somebody wanted a reading, I gave it to them, and then I had this little following. And I read all through high school, all through college, all through grad school. I took about 10 or 15 years off because I was focused on my career. I was doing very nicely, but I always kind of kept my hand in it. And then later on in my life, in my 30s, I started up again. Um, and that went through until my mid 40s when I became very ill and had a few resuscitations, but I still kept reading. I had to put food on the table. So had I known I would be reading now, I'm going to be 69 years old in May. I would have just saved a couple of $1 million on college tuition and just read through all of that. But I'm very excited to talk about tarot tonight. Now, a lot of people wonder where did it come from? And there are so many theories out there. Some people believe it came from Egypt, and then the Hebrews took it into the desert when they split and went back to Israel, which took them 40 years because a woman wasn't leading them. She would have just took a map out, but no, it was a guy, and it took them 40 years. I don't know if that's true or not. Other people say that it came from a Greek mystery school. The fact is that nobody knows. But I've studied and have been initiated in many metaphysical traditions and attended many mystery schools. And I approach this from an anthropological perspective rather than a mystical, because I really want to know about these cultures. I was fascinated by them and the whole relationship they had with their gods, which was very different than it is today. And what happened is I've learned that the earliest divination, not everybody was literate back then. The earliest divination was done by anomalies of nature and numerology. People could count. They knew one, two, three, four. And anomalies of nature were very special. A rock with a hole in it was supposed to be very powerful. Um, Look at four-leaf clovers. Most clovers are three leaves. Every now and then there's a natural anomaly that brings us a clover with four leaves. So those were the special ones. So it seemed to be all about numerology and symbolism. And every culture had its sacred symbols. So tarot cards are actually a combination of numerology and symbolism. Every card has a symbol on it, and every card has a number on it. So that's how I suspect it really started out. And it continued. People in Africa were using something called obi. There were four pieces of coconut shell, dark on one side, light on the other. So it was visual. There were four pieces. There are only five configurations. There's your numerology. So it's almost like the infancy of sacred geometry, where we're looking for balance and then finding that extra element to give it just a little more of a kick to really give it some power. So that's how I speculate it began. But ultimately, more and more people did become literate. So they were able to write, draw. We always had cave paintings, and there was a lot of sympathetic magic in those cave paintings. A lot of our Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon people they would paint hunting scenes on the walls of the cave, and our scientists today speculate, and our anthropologists speculate, that it was a form of sympathetic magic. They would show themselves catching the animal before they went out to get it so that they would put it in real time. That is quantum physics. So these people were a lot smarter and a lot hipper than we give them credit for, and we're never going to know for sure. All we can do is speculate. But I do know that the earliest recorded history of tarot and astrology and a few other items from your local mystery school emerged around the Middle Ages. There were some literate people that were keeping chronicles of what was going on day to day, and they would mention these things. And then suddenly we had the Inquisition. Now, what really strikes me funny about the Inquisition, if you got caught telling fortunes or reading tarot, you were burnt at the stake, you were put to death. However, in Renaissance Italy, The Italians thought it was, they would kill you if they saw you reading tarot, but if you were gambling in a public place, it was fine. They were very cool with that. So what would happen, and I do believe that this is how the modern deck of tarot and also playing cards emerged. They would be sitting at a table, having wine or coffee or whatever they were drinking back then. And it looked for all the world that they were gambling. There were cards and money on the table, but actually it was people reading tarot. I spent a great deal of time in Italy studying strega, which is Italian witchcraft. And their roots go all the way back to early Rome, but their turning point came during the Inquisition because they had to get rid of all their ritual tools. So um, a lot of strega and a lot of Wiccans use something called the pentacle. It's a disc about that big around with a five-pointed star on it. Well, in Italy, the strega would cut it on their bread and then bake their bread. So there was your pentacle. And if the inquisitors came into the house, everybody just ate. So you consumed it. Excuse me. When I was staying in Italy, I was staying with a strega who was teaching me that tradition. And I was renting a bedroom and I had kitchen privileges and living room privileges. And I remember one of my first days there, I got up to make something to eat. And I opened a drawer and it was weird. It was just a knife and a wooden spoon. And I took the wooden spoon and I went to stir something and she came running out of the living room like Evelina flying out of the garbage can and grabbed my head. No, 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 you don't use that spoon. You use this spoon. I later found out that that is um, the substitute for a wand or an athame, which is a ritual knife. But it had to look like an everyday object so that the inquisitors wouldn't put them in prison and kill them. Scissors, regular scissors is part of their deal too. They do something called la Malocchio, which is removing the evil eye from somebody. And they use olive oil and water, and then they scry into it. Scrying is like looking into a crystal ball or a mirror and getting images. And then instead of using a wand or a dagger, they would just cut it with scissors. So it was very, very interesting for me to see how everything had to go underground for so long. But I really learned a lot of it when I was in Western Europe. I was working in the music industry and world beat. So I just got to travel everywhere and investigate all these really cool traditions. So it sort of stayed on the down low after that, although the elite, uh, people who were titled did have their readers. John Dee, who was Queen Elizabeth's mathematician, is the father of the Enochian magical tradition. So, if you had a little money, you had a little protection. If you had a little protection, you could still consult people who had the talent to read divination for you. And it stayed on the down low until the 18th century. I know that there was a big resurgence in mysticism. The classic revival. They were building temples to Venus in Versailles. Marie Antoinette had one on her property there, and it continued that way among the elite. But then in the 19th century, it really became in vogue, reaching its pinnacle very close to where it is now during the Victorian era, because they were just mad about seances and tarot readings and anything mystical. Another resurgence of neoclassical architecture, ways of thought, ways of living. All of these things from ancient times were brought back into the present and made a little safer. And then in the early 20th century, when we went through the age of prohibition, where everything was restrained, it's starting to feel like that today. You say the wrong thing, you're canceled, you're erased. People will shit talk you all over the news. We had that in the 1930s with McCarthyism. So I'm seeing that as society becomes repressed, it goes further and further underground. It never goes away. It's never able to be eradicated. People come to places like the Zodiac Lounge, which is an underground hangout where you can just be yourself without having to worry about being judged. But in the early 20th century, it was not a good idea to be caught doing that sort of thing. But then around the 1960s, when we had our social revolution and we just brought love and respect and equality back. And the age of Aquarius officially began. Tarot cards came back into vogue. And that's when I started reading. And they were around for a while. They kind of did okay, but then the 80s happened, and well, the 80s weren't for everybody. There was a lot to do. There was a lot of partying, a lot of drugs. I once worked in a place that if you walked in sober, they were very suspicious. They got ready to send you to HR. They thought there was something wrong with you. But a lot of focus on spirituality kind of dissipated, and people started getting more into the corporeal world. So it sort of swings like a pendulum. And then in the 90s, it started swinging back with the new age era. And here we are today, and it's a very accepted form of service. I have people that call me um, for readings that you wouldn't believe who some of them are. I mean, people that work on Wall Street, they own hedge funds, people in politics who I cannot mention, even some government agencies that I will never admit to because they could get in some trouble, and so can I. So there's still a bit of a stigma attached to it, but more and more it's mainstream, and people are fascinated by it. And it's such an elusive modality that, unfortunately, for people like me and some of you in the audience who might be readers, there's a lot of frauds out there and a lot of fakes. So people are really, really weird about. They're intimidated to get a reading, and they tend to try to just brush it aside. But you always see them looking out of the corner of their eye at that reader, or you can catch them online going to these places. So, do we have any questions at all, or anybody want to add to anything that I just mentioned about the history of the tarot? Anything that I might have forgotten that any of you can remember? And also, I'd like to remind you that I am bringing a reader on later to read with me. So if you have questions that you'd like us to answer with tarot to give you a live demo, start putting them in the queue, please, or you can put them in chat later. So I started reading in 1968. In 1971, I wrote my course material. About 5 years after that, I wrote an 8-week course on tarot. It used to be called Tarot Extreme. But the more I taught it, the more I realized it was easier to teach it as a language. So now it's called TSL, or Tarot as a Second Language. It's an 8-week course. It can be done remotely. It's better done in person because there are things that I do in a face-to-face class, excuse me, that I can't do online. Like halfway through, I ask everybody to bring a guest with them, and they all assume they're going to be reading their guest, but they're not. I switch everybody up because you have to get used to reading strangers and develop your confidence. But I do teach it as a language because the cards are set up that way. Now, tarot cards, um, there's most people say that there are two arcana. There's a major arcana and a minor arcana. There are actually three. Because the court cards, the kings, queens, knights, pages, they're a whole arcana unto themselves. So the major arcana, and I have my tarot cards here, so I'm going to see if I can pull one out. The major, okay, here's one. The Judgment card in this deck is so old and so dog-eared, but I can't get rid of it. I love working with this. I use this a lot when I do phone readings. This card is part of the major arcana. It has a number up top. It's number 20 in the major arcana. The name of the card is Judgment, but it's an entire idea, very much like a hieroglyph in ancient Egypt was a whole concept. It wasn't just a word or a letter or a sound. The minor arcana, we have an example here. There's a 3 of Wands, and I'll get into what the suits mean and everything in a little while. But yes, there's a number on it, but you have to know what 3 means because all threes are, it's one octave above a 2. Twos are equal and opposite energy that can cancel each other out or negotiate something. And wands, the suits have their own meanings too. And it looks like we have somebody who wants to come on, and I also have a question in there. So let's see which one we're going to take first. Hi, okay, Jacqueline Christina asked the question and also wants to come on. So do you want to ask us out loud?
I was curious about how over time you developed your, I want to say inner dialogue with your cards, but I imagine it's a very intimate relationship with your deck.
Well, it's a language and it is numerological. So it's mathematical, which means it's consistent.
Okay.
And each suit has its own specific meaning. And you can read them without being intuitive. You can just read the numbers and the symbols and give an accurate reading, but it's not going to have much detail. But tarot is a language, but everybody, after they become familiar with it and after they develop confidence in their ability to interpret it, develops their own dialect in that language.
Okay, that's what I was
Okay.
curious about.
Yeah.
Is it like an individual dialect
It's
based on?
very intimate. It's very intimate.
Wow.
I always talk about my guides must be drunk today or something because sometimes I get a little rambunctious. But I don't know what it is. There's a theory that you're actually communicating with your higher self. There's another theory that you go into Jung's collective
Ooh.
unconscious and interact with other entities. It feels like you go away. I keep enough of myself present just to be coherent, but then the rest of me is sort of gathering information. But you never know for sure if, and this is what's really hard in the beginning when someone's trying to develop their skill. You never know for sure if you're just making things up or if it's the real deal. Ultimately, as you become more acutely aware of the little nuances in your own person and your own body rhythms when you connect, I get a tell. Most people get some kind of a tell. They might hear something to know that they've connected with an accurate source. I get a tingling, like almost like about 10 volts going through the entire right side of my body. That's how I know that it's an accurate source. Other people will hear something. They might, you do get a tell, but it takes a long time to build up confidence because the other thing is that we're getting very specific information from people. And a lot of times I'm reading and I think that is the most bizarre, insane thing that I've ever heard of in my life. I can't possibly say this out loud. And I've learned to do it because in the beginning I would keep it to myself and then somebody would tell me exactly that later. And I'm not going to say, well, I heard that before, I saw that before, but I didn't want to say anything because that just makes you look like crazy or a fake. And there's enough skepticism around this and there's very talented people who have no ethics either. I actually got brought to court by one because I tried to I tried to clock him on the street, but his bodyguards got me. Um, so it is a very intimate language. It is nuanced. I recommend that anybody who buys a book of tarot cards, they all come with this little white book. The most important thing you can do is tear the book up and throw it away. Okay, because the Queen of Swords is not a middle-aged, dark-haired woman with a domineering personality. Queens mean control, swords mean action. Control, action. Take charge, control your reaction. Depending on the cards that are modifying it in the spread around it is going to determine what that means. So my book that I give to my students has two or three buzzwords next to every card.
Oh.
And then at the end of the workshop series, when people have developed their dialect, I tell them now you have to throw my book away. You've
I love
established your
that.
communication. So it's a really good way to learn in a way that's not confining and you're not reaching
Mm.
for, and you're not working with somebody else's idea. You're actually developing a rapport and a very intimate rapport with these cards.
Wow.
And they're structured, they're very, very structured. As I said, there's a major arcana, there's a minor arcana. Andrew disagrees on the queen. I am totally that domineering queen. Oh, I know you are, baby, but bleach your hair. This way you're not going to be stereotyped. Okay. And I promise, folks, I will not get distracted by the hysterical chat. I love my chat room on this
I
show.
love it.
But I do want to stay on topic because I could also get blackballed or canceled by somebody who might not take a liking to my joking around. So There's a major arcana, a minor arcana. Major arcana are pictures. I'm going to find another one that might be a little bit more interesting than the one that I showed you, but they're entire concepts. I mean, I start my class reading with the major arcana only because they are so wordy. Each card is an actual story. The card that I showed you, the judgment card, the buzzword for that card is karma. That card means that you are encountering a challenge to your karma, and it is vital that you're aware of that. And then as you look at it, you get more and more backstory once your intuition kicks in. And I can lay out an entire scenario in one card that would take about 15 or 20 minutes to explain. But I try not to do that because most people buy time-based readings. They only have X amount of money and X amount of time. Everybody I know gets an hour for lunch. I can go on for 5 hours, but I prefer not to. The court cards um, are very different. Um, and thank you for that excellent question, by the way.
No, I mean, I'm always, as somebody who gets readings from you, I'm always fascinated and blown away that there's nothing one dimensional about them. Like, I can refer back to readings weeks later, and they're so multifaceted. A single sentence is so multifaceted. I'm just
Mhm.
blown away by your relation to your talent and how
Well,
it.
also you're a good client because you've learned to be interactive in your reading. I'm going to get something in symbols. You're going to know what that means. And how many times have I said, does that sound like anything? Does that make sense to you? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Because I don't know, but I know I get that feeling on the side of my body that tells me that I'm on the money. I'll even go toe to toe with people. I've even gone so far as to bet all the $8.50 that I have or something. That's how strongly I believe my cards have proven themselves to be.
Mm,
But it's a leap of faith, and it has to be an interactive experience with the person that I'm
mm,
reading for because you know the details of your life. And if you're smart, you're not going to give those details to any reader because you want to make
mm.
sure that they're legit. So you can help them.
Yes.
And it would be a good time for me to explain my spiel when I get a new client or when I have a new reading. I usually start out the same. Tarot tells you exactly what's most likely to occur if things continue exactly as they are. That is the operative phrase. If you're in school and you're studying for finals and you're up 22 hours a day and you're eating Adderall like they're M&Ms, and your question is, am I going to pass my finals? And the cards say yes. That means you have to keep on staying up 22 hours a day and eating Adderall like they're candy, or the result will change. It tells you what's most likely to occur if things continue exactly as they are. Are they predictive? At times, yes, they can be. But mostly, what they are is letting you know what's going on right now around you that you cannot see. So they're a really good reference to use if you're in the middle of a project or a relationship or anything that you can't see into the future and you are worried about. But getting back to the language, we have the major arcana, which are little stories, little short stories. The major arcana is like a book of short stories. That's how I usually present it. And I teach people to write with the cards as I'm teaching them to read them. Your first class homework is tell me this in tarot cards. So you can pick two or three cards to express the sentence that I give you, and then we diagram them, much like we did in early English class, because we have to learn about all those verbs and nouns and prepositional phrases and everything else when we're reading, because that's how the story lays out. The court cards are very interesting. Pages are about something new. There's kings, queens, knights, and pages. Pages are about something new. Knights are about something that's in motion. So, for example, if you wanted to know something about your current job, that would be your current source of income, the income that is in motion for you right now. I would use the Knight of Pentacles because Pentacles mean money, wealth, income, that sort of thing. So, pages are the new, Knights are what is in motion, Queens are all about control, um, and Kings are harmony with the element. We also have aces. Now, aces are in a class of their own, but I wouldn't consider them their own arcana. I tend to lump them in with the court cards, because aces are always benefic and they are gifts. They are brought to us as a help, as a gift, or as a reward. And what kind of gift or reward or help you're getting is going to be indicated by the suit on the card, which I'll get into in a minute. So, looking at that hierarchy, it's very easy to see how you can read with playing cards, because playing cards are basically tarot cards without the major arcana. And I've read with playing cards. When I visited Jamaica and the West Indies to learn all about that kind of magic, I was in Jamaica. I did not want to leave. I was on my way to the airport. I jumped off the side of the bus because they have buses that you can jump on the side of and hold on. And I thought, okay, well, there's an abandoned hut behind the Holiday Inn that I can hang out in for a few days, but I've got to make some money. So I took my cards out and I was sitting on the beach and I was reading for myself. And sure enough, an American tourist came up. Oh, do you read tarot? Yes, I do. And then I got a whole bunch of them. And then 2 days later, I was able to book into the Holiday Inn and not stay in the hut. Um, but you can read with playing cards. I've done it in a pinch. And that's also part of how I train people. When we're working with the minor arcana, I make them start with playing cards first, because all they have is the number and the suit. They don't have pictures on them. So you get a much stabler foundation by just working with numbers and suits. And then after we go through that, we then learn how to lay them out into a spread. I'm looking at my notes here because I'm kind of getting sidetracked. But there needs to be, how do you find a good reader? That's another thing. Why would you do this? It's something you can take with you everywhere. If you can read tarot, you can make money anywhere you go. You can extend your vacation. I put myself through college reading. There was a place on Lexington Avenue in the city called the Gypsy Teacup. I think it was on the second or third floor. And it was run like a Nazi camp because the woman who ran it didn't want anybody getting anything for free. But it was a good place to develop your skill. And I would go in and I would see maybe 10 or 15 people in a shift and then take my money and go home. And I was able to study at two major schools and supplement my income and have some chump change in my pocket and do quite nicely without having to be working for anybody for 8 hours in a row. I can just sort of hit and miss as I went. Um, so it's a tremendous talent to develop. And as I said earlier, you don't necessarily have to be psychic, because you can read just the numbers and the suits or the numbers and the symbols if you're using tarot as opposed to playing cards and still come up with an accurate forecast. But it's not going to be so detailed. Um, any questions so far about any of that anyone in chat has to ask, or any comments you want to make, or if anybody would want to come on screen, let me know and we can do that. And I can just keep talking until you do. And this might be a good time for you to put questions in the queue or in the chat room that you would like my guest reader, Stacy Chuli, and I to read for you later in the show. So how do you find a good tarot reader? Referral. But there's a problem with referral because a lot of people don't want their friends to know that they're looking for a reader or that they go to a reader. I've had so many clients say to me, I see you, Andrew, and I'll get to you in a minute. I've had so many clients say to me, I would love to send my friends to you, but I don't want them to know that I, consult a tarot reader. Why? Because you're their stockbroker and they shouldn't know that you're calling a reader, but they don't call me about that. They call me for personal issues. So you can make a referral. You can look around, go on YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. You can go on YouTube and you can hear people pitching themselves. I'm going to make a 60-second video, but it's a good idea to see a person's body language, to
Hey,
hear a
Anthony.
person's voice. Hear a person's voice, to understand how they work. Because I shoot from the hip. I'm straight, no sugarcoating. I don't speak in riddles. There's no mumbo jumbo with me. Some people might want something more mystical. And we'll take the other thing you can do if you want a great reader is you can go to anthonycentral.com and send me an email and we can hook up an appointment. But I just put a big asterisk where I was in my notes because I would like to hear Andrew. So what's up?
So actually, I'm really interested in everything, and I was curious because I know a lot of people that have mixed views on reading reversals, and I want to know one
Oh,
if
reverse cards. Let's just explain that. Reversals are when a card comes out upside down in your spread. So go ahead. How do
and
you
I
feel about it?
I mean I personally feel that reversals are important because it's just as much as part of the card as this right
Mhm.
side up,
Okay.
and I was just curious if there's that's involved in TSL and if TSL can also translate to other cards like medicine, oracle.
Well, tarot as a second language is modeled after the tarot deck. Oracle cards usually have a statement on the bottom, and you connect with that. And then you intuit what that means to that particular person. So it really wouldn't be applicable. But I'm glad you asked about reversals because people didn't start reading reverse cards until the Victorian times, until the 19th century. Some people say that it's the opposite of what the card means. Some people say it's the same meaning but in a diminished capacity. What does it mean to you when you read a reverse card? What does that mean to you?
Opposite.
Okay, okay. So you see, I don't read reverse cards. I mean, an eight of cups is an eight of cups. It can be upside down. It could be sideways. It could be anyway. But to me, it doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. It just means that again, this is my dialect with the cards. You've developed your own dialect, but it's the same language because you understand what eight means and you understand what cups means. You just choose to use that nuance to further your interpretation of it. That's a really good question. I actually forgot about reversals. That's how much I don't use them. And I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of people do. Because I've done readings face to face, and well, that card's upside down. What does it mean? I said it means that when I shuffled the deck, it turned upside down because I shuffle like a blackjack dealer. Isn't that irreverent? You're shuffling them, and it's like, no. I mean, what do you want me to just like? No, they're cards. We shuffle. You can hear them. As a matter of fact, I think you were present in one of the early Enchanted cafes that I was hosting, and we had a question. And I'm like, I'm shuffling, and I'm listening. I don't hear none of you bitches. None of you bitches are shuffling. What's going on over there? No, no, no. We're doing this. So it's all up to you. I personally don't read reversals because when I shuffle, I do the old blackjack thing, like just regular cards. But then I pick them up, and now I can't do it because I'm on the air. That's cute. Thanks, guides. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I do it like somebody from Vegas, and it's not irreverent, it's not insulting. But reverse cards, if they mean something to you, if they're going to give your client a more accurate reading from you, then by all means use them. I mean, they don't strike me as wanting to be different, but that's just maybe my perspective and my dialect. So, anything else?
Well, that's what I was curious about is
Okay.
where you stand on,
Yeah.
like, if you include them in your readings or not.
No, I mean, I'll lay them out and then I just turn them right side up. But it doesn't mean there's not really, there's also a big disparity over the meaning between wands and swords. Some people,
Wow.
I believe wands are about the intellect and swords are about linear action. Other people say, no, wands are about linear action and swords are about the intellect. You're getting the same reading. It's again, it's the nuance that the reader gives it. It's the relationship, the very personal, intimate relationship that the reader develops with their cards and the dialect of that language that gives them the most accurate information for the people that they're serving. Because let's not forget, we do this so that we might serve, and we have to be good at it. So you can go all over America. I mean, when I was in Maine, I thought people were speaking Chinese, and then I realized it was a regional accent. So, but it was still English, and somebody who understood that dialect or connected with that dialect was not going to think, is that Mandarin? Like I did, because I'm an idiot. And we have another Alex. My husband Boo has a question. Anthony, when will you do Strega episode? I'm doing. I'm looking supposedly in the beginning of May because I'm working. I have a guest. She is a legitimate Sicilian hereditary Strega, and she's been around
Ooh.
for a very long time, but she also just had knee surgery. So hopefully she's going to be on in the beginning of May, May 1st, actually, which is great because it's a wonderful holiday for us to celebrate too. It'll be delightful to have her here. But I'm also going to do a short course on it.
Ooh, I
But
can't
I
wait
have
for
to,
that.
yeah, because I have to get a test kitchen. Do you know anybody with a test kitchen, Andrew?
I
I guess
can.
all the magic is in food. It's like puja. It's like Hindu, the whole Hindu pantheon. And so you have to enchant every ingredient and then you have to stir a certain way. And it's very,
Oh,
very cool. But I have to do it in a kitchen, or if somebody has a fabulous kitchen that they could let me broadcast out of, I would do that too, because mine is like this tiny little New York City apartment kitchen that isn't big enough to film in. I mean, it's barely big enough to screw in while the soup's simmering. But
well,
but
I'll
we
definitely look
find a
into it.
way. We find a way. Um, so yes, Strega will be coming forward. We have a YouTube channel too. I believe it's called Esoteric New York TV or Esoteric Guides TV. I'm not sure. Maybe Scott Harney can put the URL. You can follow that and also follow our Crowdcast channel. Follow the Zodiac Lounge. If you've signed in and registered, you're going to be getting, if you're already getting emailed, you'll know. And I'll try to maybe redesign our emails that are promoting each show to include what's coming on in the next couple. There's going to be some changes. We've been around 3 months now, and it's really taken root, but it's time to sort of move things around. Okay, the YouTube channel is in chat, and please do subscribe because then we can actually have a real name, unlike some love child who has to live without a name. Andrew, you're making me very silly, and I love it. So, so I hope that answered your question.
It definitely did, and
Yeah,
I
there
can't
is no
wait for your
wrong or
TSL.
right. There is no wrong or right with that, but it's what resonates with you because you have to be completely invested in what you're doing to be confident enough to find those tiny little nuances that you might miss if you didn't develop that intimacy. So read reverse, that's fine. And thank you for coming on with an excellent question. And stick around because I want you to ask questions to Stacy and I later. I want you to like really grill us like cheeseburgers.
Definitely,
Yeah,
and I want to definitely look into that TSL course. Like that's gonna be on
sure.
my list of courses.
Absolutely. And come up and, whenever we do a live audience at Astro West, come visit. It was really a lot of fun. We were day drinking. I mean, it was insane.
Oh, love day drinking. I'm in.
Good, good, good. Yeah, it's something to do. It's summer.
Yes.
So thank you for coming on. I want to get back to this and then get more questions, but we will chat again later. So we went through the Arcana, we went through the suits. I'm not going to go through the numbers, that would take all night. We explained the court cards, the four suits in tarot. There are pentacles, there are wands, there are swords, and there are cups. Pentacles have anything to do with money, material goods, riches. It could even mean intrinsic value, anything of value. There's a card, the Four of Pentacles, and it's somebody with a foot on each pentacle and one in his arms and one in his head. And that card means you want to hold on to either all of your money or everything that is valuable to you. So what's valuable to you? It could be a relationship, it could be an opportunity, it could be anything of value. Swords are about linear energy. It's about taking action. Swords are vitality. They're the life spark. Wands have everything to do with concept, the cerebral. We're talking about the head and the heart, and we're going to get to the heart in a little bit. But wands are all about the head. It's about art. A queen of wands will be a master of their art, communication, written, spoken words, anything like that, and process, the intellectualization of something. And cups are all about emotions or the heart. A lot of people say, well, cups are about love. Um, but they're about emotion, and love is an emotion. It's a very strong emotion. So that's pretty much an overview of the mechanics of the tarot. Learning how to read them and learning how to interact with them is a whole other story. You'll find that if you have any of the clairs, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, if you don't have them, you're going to develop them. And if you do have them, they're going to become a lot more acute. So that's really a cool byproduct of learning how to interact with an oracle, because tarot is considered an oracle. So we went through how to pick a good tarot reader. So you can check somebody out on YouTube. You can get a referral. You can make a time-based appointment. A lot of readers, like I do 15-minute readings, and I do them for a reason. They're only like $35. And if you don't have $35, you shouldn't be getting a tarot reading. But I do them so that people get an opportunity to experience my style, because my style of reading is very much like I'm speaking to you right now. But some people want very reverent fruit and air people who are just very mystical and speak in riddles. And others want crazy gypsies that are going to ward off any curse and take all your money to remove a family curse and sell you everything they have in their store because they read you to sell product. Um, I don't. I don't. I'm just straight up, no bullshit. I shoot from the hip. I don't sugarcoat anything. I am an empath, which actually works to my advantage because I think my style of reading might be a product of my environment. I'm a New York City native, and we try to use an economy of words and we try to do things in compressed time because we're always in a rush to get somewhere before somebody else does. Um, so I am very straightforward, but I'm an empath, which means that I can feel what you're feeling while I'm reading you. So if I have something to tell you that could be disturbing or devastating, I actually can choose my words so carefully that you won't be stopped dead in your tracks by the shock or the trauma of it. And there's a way to bring it in there. And then later in my life, I went back to school to study clinical psychology. So I had an easier way to bring people to what they needed to learn, because the challenge was always somebody who was so fragile that they couldn't hear something really pertinent. And I would have to either feel that I caused them pain or that I left something out that was really important for them. And then I learned to lead them for them to discover it themselves. But your empathic ability will also increase if you're truly invested in doing this for the right reasons. It isn't about the money, it's about bringing information. And I usually tell people that I'm like a bike messenger. Do we still have those? I'm like a messenger with a document in a foreign language that you don't understand, but I do. So my job is to interpret what someone wrote on that document for you. And I have to do it in a way that is comprehensible, that is not going to knock you off your pins, that you're going to understand every single little word, nuance, punctuation mark, everything, and then even ask you, do you understand what that means? Do you know what I'm talking about? Um, I often stop people in the middle of an answer because they don't want to be influenced, because about 90% of me is gathering information and there's enough of me here to speak coherently. Um, and then you'll find someone, sample them, do a small based reading. If a lot of people, I mean, I always leave time later in case the person wants to extend their reading right there, but sometimes I can't. So you just book a subsequent appointment. And what I often do is I will, if they really want it that same, if I can do it that same day, I will deduct that cost from their extended reading. They're not going to be charged twice. Um, but be careful, because anybody that tells you that they're an expert in moving curses is not the reader for you unless you're independently wealthy. And there are a lot of shysters out there, even some with talent. So just let your gut be your guide too. But it's really about, you have to know that you're comfortable with the person that's reading you. It's like meeting a stranger and not on a date. Um, and you click with some people and you don't, and you should click with your reader. Another way that you can really get the most out of the time that you're engaged with the reader is in how you ask your questions. I get things like, am I going to be a success next year? Well, I could read them and say, oh yeah, you're going to be a success. You're going to be successfully incarcerated, for B&E. But maybe that wasn't the kind of, so, I usually say to them, what part of your life, when I'm reading for them, when I sit them down, they get my spiel about tarot tells you what's most likely to occur, blah, 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 blah. And then ask them, what part of your life do you want me to focus on most? Is it your personal life, your business life, your love life? What are we talking about? Well, it's about, am I going to get married to Jack? It's like, well, are you dating Jack? Are you at least dating? Or have you been dating? Or do you just see him across the street and wish you were. Give me a little, so give them context. You don't want to give away too much. And I appreciate people that are reasonably skeptical. You should be. Nobody should be 100% gullible, because then you're just easy prey for the shysters. But be specific about it. Am I going to get married? Well, are you in a relationship? Yes. Is that the person you want to marry? Yes. Fine. Shut up. I'm going to shuffle. I'm going to lay them out, and we're going to see what kind of story we have for you. And then we go through it. Um, be really open, because tarot works like therapy. And if you have a wall up, your reader is only going to be able to access what you're allowing them access to. So if you're going to block yourself off, you're going to get a very vague kind of reading. But usually, and I expect people to do that. They're all walled up. They don't know whether to trust me or not. But usually within the first 5 minutes, I'm able to tell them something that I had no idea of, that I would have no idea of unless my cards were actually telling me. And then that's once they develop trust in your ability to see what you had no other way of knowing, then they put their guard down and you're able to communicate more. I wonder sometimes, is it really both of our higher selves communicating with each other on a different plane, and then just filtering the information down through into my head and out of my mouth to give them answers? Um, we never know. And I'm going to. Okay, so another question. No urgency in my question, but curious what it's like reading for other readers. No need to bring me back on camera. That was our lovely Jacqueline Christina. It's no different than reading for anybody else. You know, some readers will have a tendency to try to read their cards in their dialect while you're reading them. I'm very patient, because guess what? I do that too. But I've learned to just shut up and listen. My job, if I need to call in another reader, I need to shut up and listen to what they have to say. I do not need to try to micromanage or look at the cards. Oh, that means that. Maybe they have. No, 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 no. If I'm not going to ask anybody who isn't legit. Um, and I was doing something. I was playing with my guest last night, and we were reading for each other. We were speed reading like Evelyn Wood never could, and we were just appreciative of every each other's dialect, each other's language. So I would like to bring on Stacy Chuli right now, who is a brilliant reader, and she and I will take questions from the audience. You may come on camera if you like. You may leave it in chat, or you can write it in the question queue, and I'll give you all a chance to come back from getting what you're getting in the kitchen, or whatever snack you're getting, or whatever you're doing. And Scott will bring her on as soon as he can connect with her. Yes. Annie, I'm sure she is, because she does it every Saturday night at this time. So somebody had a question about another reader, and I answered it. So Stacy will be on the air with us. But does anyone have any questions that they would like me and or Stacy to answer? Let us know now. Are we stuck somewhere? This is kind of fun. Hi, Melee.
Anthony, for some reason, Stacy is not coming on. I'm not sure what's the issue.
Is she responding to the invitation?
Yep, says accepted and connecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
When does my course begin? Nicole, the tarot course will begin at some point in May. And we'll announce it here. It is 8 weeks in a row. There you are. It's 8 weeks in a row. You can either attend in person or online, and we'll give you about 3 to 4 weeks heads up before we begin it, because I'm just getting everything, the time blocked and the spaces accounted for right now. So here is Stacy Chuli, brilliant reader, a lot of fun. So how are you? We were just talking about our playtime last night.
Had fun with our
Yeah,
playtime.
and we were doing. Why do you interpret that way? Well, why not? Courses can be paid for PayPal. If you come to, we're going to send out. I'm sorry, Stacy. We're going to
That's
send out an email about the courses when they're available. If you want to take them online, you will follow the link that will bring you to Esoteric Guides. If you want to take them in person, you will follow the link that will bring you to Astro West Minerals, and then you will pay either of those people, and that's how that works. So, Stacy, hi. You're
Hi.
probably exhausted waiting to get on.
Not at all. Entertained, of course.
Yeah, good. So, you have a relationship with tarot. You're an excellent reader. How long have you been reading for?
I started reading in, I think it was 96. I took a course.
Okay.
Which is funny because when we were talking last night, which is why we went back and forth, you know, like you remember the way you were taught
Mhm.
and it's with you.
Yeah.
And I remember the swords were pain and sorrow, you know,
Okay.
and
Well, they can be
yeah,
if somebody sticks you
they
with
can,
one. I mean,
they can be. But I think like you were saying, over time, you just,
yeah.
you figure things out.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's like you see things in life,
Mhm.
like you see something happening and you're like, oh, that's the Tower card. That's, you know, or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It, you know, like even with, like, I'll go back to my homeopathy, but I see people and I'm like, I see their remedy. So you see whatever it is, your
Right.
craft or
Well, yeah, it's a
in life
language. Yeah.
time.
It presents itself to you like a document.
Right.
Like a document. We can get I'm sorry, I'm reading chat. Melee, we can get a general vibe. You don't need to be on camera if you don't want to be. You can post the question. But Stacy and I are like siblings. Because last night we were reading and she says, why'd you interpret that card like that? Because that's what it means. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. It was just...
Well, that's not what that's not what I think.
Exactly. Well, I think something else. So fuck you. Yeah.
You're not the boss of me.
Do what you want.
But,
Yeah.
But it's like whatever comes through is what's meant to come through. So if I interpret it one way, that's why it came through that way.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I see it. And like sometimes things just like pour out of your mouth and that's because that person's meant to hear those words.
Right. But
so it's not always about like you said, there's no real rule or steadfast anything to them. So
yeah, well, once you develop that relationship and your dialect with your cards, because what was interesting, we both concluded last night that we were saying the same thing in different words because we interpreted the same cards in different words, but the concept was the same. The perspective was different, but in the end, it was the same information. And then when I read for your husband, I was like, I almost fell. He goes, yeah, that's going on. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that was right. That was
that
right
was
on
funny.
point.
That was fun. Because I just said, it feels like this to me. And what it felt like, the information that I got to describe what the card was telling me was something that was actually going on in real time. And that was pretty cool because it just, again, after all, it's 52 years I'm reading and, you know, I still wonder, do I know what the hell I'm doing? And it should be that way because it isn't tangible. It's ethereal. And this whole craft is ethereal. So it's not really able to be pinned down and dissected, but it's definitely a feeling. So, any questions? Melee, do you have a question? Do you want to pull over on the side of the road and ask a question? How can you type and drive?
She's talking into her microphone, I hope.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been a long time since I've been behind the wheel. So, because if anybody doesn't have any questions, we're going to shut down and you're going to be waiting. So we need to hear you now.
Oh, ask Anthony a question. You have an opportunity to ask Anthony a question. You should absolutely do that. He's amazing. I just tried to get my daughter who's out at a rave.
Oh, good. Thank God.
So like, if you have an opportunity to let Anthony read for you, you need to.
No, Ma, going drinking.
No, that's what I said. I said that's not going to work. You know, mixed drinking and reading. Although I got my very first reading that way when I was young, like 14. at a party, one of those parties.
Mhm.
But I went up to the reader and I was just like trembling, like that full on. That's how I knew it was like powerful from a little kid. There's a question now. Yeah, go ahead. The spirit.
Have any message for me? I want to be at a rave. So you want to know if you're going to a rave? I can tell you that without cards.
And I love to do yes and no.
Oh,
Do you
yeah?
ever do yes and no?
Yeah, but I love saying no. And then,
I
maybe
love that.
I would.
I always do that. Like I always go to my cards for that. And I love to other people, just like, oh, ask the cards, because it tells you what you really want, because you're always rooting for something, even if you don't know. So yes and no is what the tarot are fun. Like one of my daughter's friends, I had her pick her college. She didn't know what college. She was like, torn between these two universities, and like, cards, and she did. And I was like, that's the one I really want, because you root for something. So that's what I love about the tarot too, because even if you don't want to know something, you know what you don't want to know, which is important to know.
Okay. My question is, does Spirit have a message for me? Melee, in what area of your life are you looking for an answer? Because, Spirit can tell you anything, but I mean, try to be a little bit more specific. I tried to cover that when I was saying how to ask a question. What area or what part of your life do you need answers in? Where would you like a message for to come to you? Is it about your love life, your personal life? Is it about education? Is it about work? What's going on? Career. Okay. Stacy, you want to take it? And I'm just going to ask you further to teach people again how to ask that question. Are you already in an established career, or are you going to be changing? Is this going to be a new venture, or is it something that you're already doing? And we can. I'm going to shuffle too. Well, we're going to see.
Yeah, you do. Let's both do.
Okay. It's like.
Oh.
All right. Give me a minute to shuffle. Are you all laid out? Because if you're laid out, start talking, and I'll catch up in a minute.
And career. So that's just that. That's it.
That's it.
The spirit. Okay. I mean, career. Well. Okay, so I have well, you're going to be offered something new.
Oh, she just said it's a new venture. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
so okay. It is a new. So you're already on the money. Go ahead. Keep
venture. We got an ace. It's a new venture, and it's something. And I have the Fool here, which is just the very beginning of the journey. So in the major arcana, the Fool is the first card. It's the beginning of the journey. So it's the message is you're walking into the unknown. You're walking into the unknown with something, but you're doing it with enthusiasm, almost like a child, just really with not a whole lot of expectation, more enthusiasm and excitement, with not even taking a risk, no fear. You're just kind of going on the journey and going for it. So the universe is saying, yes, go on this journey, and don't be afraid of it not working out. Don't be afraid of being destitute. Don't make it about this might fail. Go in with enthusiasm, because the universe is making an offer to you. So don't be clouded by your feelings of lack and lack of faith. So it's go off into it with enthusiasm. There might be some risk involved, but the universe is offering something to you, and don't let those feelings of doubt and, lack
of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting, because I have similar story, but different context.
Go ahead.
This is something, Melee, that you probably should have been doing a while ago. It's something that really, makes you understand your purpose. It's like a fulfillment of purpose. It's going to make you surrounded by reward, harvest. It's just, and this also has to do this card also has to do with relationships between mothers and children, or children and mothers. So I would wonder if it has anything to do with your relationship with your daughter, if you have one, or if it is coming from a relationship that you had with your mother that prompted you to be so on fire about this, because this is something that's really satisfying a lot of you. It's almost like you were born to do it. You are going to be able to get work. It's going to work out very nicely for you. You're going to get some work, but there's going to be some things that you're disappointed in where the money is concerned. It's not going to, I mean, you're going to obviously have a career that's in motion, but the next card, which is the Devil card, tells me that there might be some frustration. Now, the Devil card doesn't mean anything bad or evil. The Devil card means that the part of ourselves that contributes to our own self-sabotage, our own self-undoing, could be activated because of the experience that has to do with payment, moving money, the kind of, so it might not, you might thought, I wasted all this time and effort studying my ass off and getting this great GPA for this. It starts out that way. It will grow. It's a business where you have to develop roots first and develop your own style. And that's what's I'm feeling that. Is this counseling or psychology? Is this some way of serving other people, what you're doing? So I'm just feeling that it has to do with interacting with other people by supporting them in a way that would keep them grounded. It's almost like a nurturing thing that you're going to be providing for them.
Working on a PhD. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, interesting. I just wrote my second book. Yeah, costly and very little money. Okay, great. So then there you go. And anybody else have a pair on them? Oh, we have another question. Can you and Stacy talk about to the negative perceptions people have about certain cards that isn't? Sure. Oh, and Melly is a psychologist. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Keisha Brown, I have a question about my psychic development journey. I am taking a mediumship course and I'm studying West African spiritual traditions. That's really cool, Keisha. I've been to Benin to investigate those myself. I ended up going to Congo, which is where I learned a lot. What's next on my journey? How can I find more community? Your psychic development journey. Which traditions that I study? I'll get to them in a minute, Andrew. But they're all pretty much the same. They're Ifa based, but in the Caribbean, they're Voodoo and Palomayambe and Santeria. In Africa, there are very different ones. Each region, each province has its own dialect of the tradition, the main tradition of Ifa. Question of my sacred mediumship course and studying in West Africa. Okay. What's next on my journey? How can I find more community? Well, you have to find more community exactly the way you've been doing it. You have to investigate it. Oh, cool. Okay. So Voodoo and Ifa. There have to be houses that are near where you live that you can go to, you can visit, you can meet somebody. They'll invite you in to be in sort of like an outer court. I know that you're not in New York. If you were, I know that there are a couple of really reputable ones in Brooklyn that a Mambo friend of mine knows. I was initiated in Port-au-Prince in the Bel Air section of Haiti, and back then it was like the Wild West. But I went there to learn the drumming, and they wouldn't teach me the sacred drumming until I was trained and initiated and could prove that I was there with reverence. And it was an astounding experience. It was astonishing. It's one of the most gentle, nurturing spiritual systems that I've ever been involved with. It's not what the movies make it look like. Those are the Bokors, the hitmen on the side of the road that'll stick a pin in anything for money. But the real Hungans and Mambos are healers and nurturers, and it's just so, so beautiful. Keisha, you're going to have to divulge. Keisha is a client of mine. I'm going to investigate that for you. Just text me and let me know if you're still living in the same area, and then I'll ask in the community that I know if they can recommend someone nearby that we can maybe provide entree for you, because it would be wonderful for you to do this. And I had no idea you were from New Orleans. I wish I knew that when I was dating Snake. I was down there every other weekend to see him. We could have hung out and had some fun, girl. That is so funny. West Virginia, but close to them. Okay, so I will actually have a friend, Al, and I also know a Mambo in New York that will be able to help you with that. Andrew, you do not want to be initiated in voodoo. I was buried from sundown to sunup. You would scream. You're welcome, Keisha. Anytime. I know you, and I know your integrity. And I didn't know that you were doing this. I think this is a brilliant path for you. It's a brilliant path for you. You would be terrific at it. Let's see. Stacy, why don't you read for Keisha? Is she going to find that? Is she going to be able to fulfill that desire? Is she going to be able to find community? What's that search going to be like? Hey, Jade. Nice to see you there. You're so noisy.
I know. I like to do the bridge, Ooh. Yeah. Look, you're gonna like this one. Like-minded people
Excellent.
coming.
Yes. It means
And
people
I
of
love the way
like
you
mind
talk.
working for common goals.
Yes.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Keisha, you're so on. This is so good.
Yes, and you can have a wonderful relationship with yourself.
And partnership within the self and within the group. That's good. So it'll be a cohesive group.
As long as you learn to tame the beast.
Right.
Yes.
Suppress your impulses. Don't go too fast. Let it take its time. You have to be really patient, because
These are
yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait till you're initiated a Mambo.
Yep, you're on the right path for sure.
Because then you're gonna make me, some dolls, and I'm gonna stick pins in them and shove them in the freezer. No,
we all need them. Bring them.
I know. Keisha, this is awesome. This is so great for you.
Yeah, that
because if anybody deserves a good house, a good strong community to be in, that would be you. I am too. And I will get back to you within the week. I just got to reach out to these people, and as soon as I hear from them, I will let you know, and then they'll make the introductions. Does anybody else? I want to throw a party for Keisha now.
Somebody asked a question about, are there negative cards, and I think that the death card, somewhere back there, somebody asked if there was
are there negative cards? Well, the marriage card. The marriage card is it's horrible.
The marriage card?
Yeah, the 10 of Cups. I'm only joking. That's how I feel about stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
You don't like that card.
No, I know. Well, the Tower card, people are afraid of it. I mean, lightning's hitting, people are jumping out windows, but that means that you stayed too long at the fair. You have to knock down the tower and restructure it into a different shape. That the tower is your environment. So every now and then you got to knock the house down and rebuild it. The death card is great because it means something.
I like the death card.
Something must come to an end, so that something new and more serviceable can rise from its ashes. I particularly like the death card when I'm thinking about Jake. But we're not going to get into that. Okay. We have a question in chat. I'd like to know what my spiritual path is. I am interested in studying different modalities, tarot, Ayurveda, acupuncture, but would like to know where to start. Okay.
You take that.
Okay. Hey, Jenny, I didn't even see you there. Oh, God. My darling Jenny Horn is on. She gave me this beautiful little hydrangea at the live audience event last Sunday, and I just love looking at it. I can't thank you enough.
I'm going to do this because I can, because it's sitting right here.
What are you doing?
Lighting Palo Santo.
Probably lighting a joint.
No, it's not a joint.
It is. Look at this. Look at that fatty.
No, it's not a joint.
I can see the back of your building from my window over here. I'm going to crawl up the fire escape and take it right out of your hand.
Palo Santo, I swear.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, Nicole and Tahira, I see what you said. If you could post the question again, because I can't watch chat and the camera at the same time. But Nicole, her spiritual path, studying different modality tarot. Okay, so it says, first of all, we got this card because it's about time you're doing this. This is about emotions coming and going. Finally, you're opened up. You are so ready. You are so passionate about doing this. It's the perfect time to do it. But it also says that there's going to have to be a series of conversations meant to bring reward. So linking these two cards together, this is about giving and receiving emotion. Okay, like a hose pipe that's finally been cleared and now it's gushing out. So your emotions are happening. Your love for this is happening. Series of conversations meant to bring reward. It means investigate a few different things, but use your gut impulse, because that Ace of Cups is telling me that you already have a Jones for one of these things more than the other. There's something that's really getting you excited. So investigate that. But it's also saying that you're going to need to do one thing before you can do another. When you start with the one that puts the most fire in your belly, you're going to find that you're going to develop yourself across the board. And then another tradition is going to sort of wink at you and show it to you. So I would go with the one that you're hottest for right now, because again, it's about attending a series of conversations, a series of meetings. That could be workshops. It could be a course. It could be interacting with people that already are doing it, that can guide you or train you. And then that one is going to let you discover where you really need to go. And you're not going to find it until you already do that, but you have to satisfy the immediate fire. So do that first, and then you will find that you're going to be limited by it, because this card is very interesting, except that I'm doing things backwards. If you notice, there's a little shackle here. So this is about shackling the trajectory from your past that no longer serves you. You will be able to shackle what no longer serves you and move forward into the world with something that serves you more broadly. But this is a very important symbol. This is so weird watching my finger on the screen, because I'm doing everything backwards, because this represents transmutation. So you have to start somewhere, and then it will bring you to that next tradition. You might be better at Ayurveda with a tarot foundation, or vice versa. So whichever one is the one that's really exciting you right now, start with that. Get legitimate training. Don't go to just anybody. Ask around. If you'd like, you can contact me, because it seems like I think you and Jenny are friends, and I can get you some answers for that. Okay, Tahira does not want to come on screen. She wants to know if there was any message for me about transitions with my career and love relationships. Okay, are you employed? Okay, so Jenny, get her in touch with me, and I will find somebody in whatever gets her excited and make the connection, and then she can start. Okay, Tahira, are you working now? Are you involved in a career now? And are you involved in a love relationship now? Because I need to know if we're going to be looking at an existing one or the possibility of a new one. Yes, I am working, or both. You're all right. I'm just going to do this then, because it's really hard to do it without a conversation, because chat sometimes gets delayed. I'm going to assume you're already involved in a career and a relationship. I'm working. I am not current. Okay, thank you. Okay, so will you find a relationship? So we're gonna put both questions into one. Unless Stacy, you want to?
No, I want. Go ahead.
No,
You're on a
you
roll.
want to take one and I'll take the other. What do you want to do? Relationship or career?
No, I want you. You're on a roll. I just want you to.
Oh, you just want to sit here and watch me work? Okay, fine.
Yeah. Good, but you were right already in the momentum.
I was asking for help, but that's okay. I'm going to get you. I will get you.
Give me one.
I'm going to.
Career or relationship?
What are you doing?
Career or relationship? Which one you want me to?
Which one you want? Pick one. I'm getting that look in my eye. I can see it in the monitor.
Relationship.
Okay. This is fun.
Oh, yeah, this is kind of fun. Interesting.
Yeah, plus, you're a lot of fun to work with when we're not bickering.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so this card comes up again, like-minded coming together.
Okay.
So, you are in a relationship or you're not? No, you're not in a relationship.
She's not.
Right. She's not in a relationship. So you're doing a lot of worrying about not being in a relationship. Is that right? I mean, this is kind of hard, you know. There's an opportunity with like-mindedness. Like-mindedness and like-minded people will come together, and it might not necessarily be it's not going to be just like you're going to meet someone one-on-one, and you're going to find someone maybe in a group.
Yeah, like if you belong to, like if you have a hobby and you join, like if you like hiking and you join the Sierra Club, or if you join a photography group,
right? So
you're going to meet somebody like that instead of
right. So it's not like, oh, you found this one person. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be, and it might be, oh yeah, I like this person, and then you realize, oh no, it's kind of not him I like, it's or her I like, it's somebody else through that person. That's what I'm kind of getting. It's not like almost like what we were just speaking about with the Ayurveda or the yoga. You know, you find something, and then it leads you to the next thing. So that's what I'm getting. So it might be something that might excite you, but it might not be that. It might lead you to the other thing, the thing.
So pretty much it's a relationship that's going to emerge from an association that didn't start out with the intention of being a romantic relationship.
Right. And then, yes. And then you're going to worry about it and overthink it. Here's one of those cards where people really freak out over. But card is, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of thoughts keeping you up at night, but they're not necessary. If you could see, there's only like 3 that are really something to think about. These are all what we do to ourselves when we close our eyes at night and the mind just wanders and and it's not necessary. So you're overthinking, overreacting. So if that does come up, it's not nearly as bad as you're creating it in your mind. But then at the end of the day, this is my favorite card for this question, because when I learned this Knight of Cups was the knight in shining armor. So now you have movement toward emotion, toward love, and I learned these also as love and happiness. But all in all, it's a knight in shining armor. So it's not going to be, oh, I'm going to walk into somewhere and meet this person and here I am. No, it
might be somebody on a bowling league, and then all of a sudden you're going to hit it off. But then that last card, that Knight of Cups, love in motion, relationship in motion. So to hear your relationship is going to come out of the most unlikely place.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now let's see what's going on with your career. Oh, this is good. You're doing pretty good tonight, girl. You're doing very good tonight. Your career, there's somebody looking out for you. Now, I don't know if you're self-employed and you're in a partnership, that's what this card could represent, but it also means that somebody there is either going to mentor you. This card represents a brokered relationship where 2 people need to compromise. And it looks like that's an opportunity, because the next card I have is all about manifestation. So that could mean that you might be brought up. I don't know what kind of work you do, what kind of a position you occupy, but it means you might be elevated into a higher position to work one-on-one with a principal in your business, where there's a simpatico and a compatibility that really works. That's definitely going to manifest. But I'll tell you what, it's going to make you love your work a lot more.
Oh my God.
And again, it comes up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we are like all about love tonight, which is not like me at all. But I hope that was helpful and inspirational, because your work thing looks pretty good. It looks like somebody's going to be working very closely with you. So on that note, we should probably wrap, because it is almost 8:30. But does anybody have anything else? A last minute anything? We can do another one. We can do a lot in 5 minutes, because we're like fabulous. Definitely put a smile on it. Well, good. We should be smiling.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, because you got two really good, you have really good
Yeah.
forecast here. I mean, I wish it was my life. So that's what Annie Fox has a question. Okay, Annie, shoot, what is your question? Okay, I explained earlier that general questions give you general answers. So can you let us know if there's a specific area of your life that you'd like us to focus on in general? This way we're both going to be happy. Because I mean, I could just tell you things that are not going to be happening. Well, you can't go on, but you can write it in what, but in what part of your life? Personal, professional, romantic? Just give me that much to go on, and then I'll be able to give you more than just a vague answer. Health. Okay, excellent. Now you can get any kind of reading you want. I know what you want, and you're going to get it as soon as we finish with Annie. I got no makeup on either, baby, and I'm all over this camera. So Annie's saying she has no makeup. That's all right. Thank you. I'm glad that you woke up and got on. I appreciate it very much. All right. Stacy, you ready to roll?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's funny. I just picked this card randomly, just like, oh, and it was this card, the Page of Swords. Are you feeling okay, Annie? The time change sucks.
That'll do.
So that's
I'm still pissed about that too.
Okay, so we have the Page of Swords. So you're standing on solid ground right now, but battling. There's something's in flux for you, and I'm just like trying to read the three of them together. Why don't you read them? Because I have like a whole little story that.
Well, go ahead. Do you want to tell your story?
All right. Okay, so I have all the swords. I have a lot of swords here. So you're gonna become. I just can't gather my thoughts right now with this.
Okay. Do you want me to do mine while you gather?
Yeah,
okay.
Yours, because I'm just
it's interesting because you said you're seeing a lot of doctors. The doctors are running a lot of tests. So I got good news for you. Out of nowhere, you're going to get an answer. This is unexpected information. Aces are always benefic. So they're going to find what the causation is. They're going to let you know what has been hidden. And also part of it has to do with unconscious response to it. So there might be something like PTSD going on, because if it's related to the unconscious mind and unconscious triggers, it would do that. But they are definitely going to find something concrete. It's no longer going to be a guessing game. So that's got to be a great relief for you to know. And then it says, I have this card, which means enlightenment through solitude, which means you're going to have to make some choices. They're going to let you know that there's a protocol that you can adhere to that will, I'm hearing the word balance, but what I think it means is alleviate whatever the symptoms are that are causing you distress. But they're finally going to pinpoint where it came from. But you're going to have to, it's going to be a commitment. It might be a lot of dietary changes. You're going to have to really make a commitment to be very strict with this protocol for the first, I'm hearing 3. I hope it's 3 weeks, but it's more than likely 3 months that you're going to have to do before you see some results. But it looks like they finally found something, and I would love it if you would let us know, when that occurs, because I know that you've been in terrible shape, and I'm very sorry for what you're going through. You and I spoke personally about it on the phone a couple of months back. I believe it was in January. And I'm sorry that you're going through all that, but I'm really happy to see that they're finally going to be able to get to the bottom of it. 1 million tests. It's like they would never end. And I think that might have made you a little cranky while you were running around getting them and waiting for answers. But it looks like it paid off. And then you're going to have to make a decision to commit to the protocol. And I think that your greatest obstacle in committing is going to be trust, because you've not had answers for such a long time that you're wondering if you could really trust this one. I would suggest you do. I would suggest you do. So I'm glad to see that for you. Now, Renee wanted a, where did she go? She was just there.
No, and also, Annie, it's only going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, we have this card that always seems, another one of those cards that seems like, oh my God, but it's not. It's only going to get better.
It's not going to get any worse. That card means if it feels like it's getting better, it is. But if it doesn't feel like that, it will soon. Financial reading, please and thanks. Well, you're talking about your investment portfolio, your income, the money you got socked away in the mattress, your diamonds that I stole from you. Renee, do you mean... What do you mean by financial reading? Could you be a tiny bit more specific?
It is my blood. They found a high blood count.
Okay.
There's also going to be some success there because, had that.
Something as simple as Neupogen can take care of that. Career and maybe a side hustle. Okay, great. So, and we will extend this, but these are mini readings. And if you like, you can make an appointment with us or anybody else. But I hope that we're giving you an education on how readings work and helping you get the most out of your time when you do book one, because we don't want to know every single detail. That would be ridiculous. But, general readings, we don't, maybe some new person would do that, but I've been doing this more than half a century. I don't test. So, you trust me or you don't. You're very welcome, Annie, and wish you good luck. And Renee, I'm getting to you right now. And if anybody here is shocked or put off, this is how Nay and I talk to each other. You should hear some of our conversations when I'm reading. All right. Okay, financial, you said, wait. Career and maybe a side job. It says do not make any moves right this moment, because you're going to have to stop yourself. That's interesting. I see you. I don't know if your current job is changing, but there's a position of control that you're either going to be given, and it said it would prevent you, or you would prevent yourself from doing that. Or I just have a feeling that you're going to be given some responsibility that you don't have. That's going to be like really consuming, and a side hustle would not be a good idea right now, because it would, well, in our vernacular, Nay, it would piss you right off. Okay, it would activate the absolute worst part of you. I would sit tight right now. Stay in that holding pattern. Around April, May, things might, you'll know for sure by the end of April, beginning of May, what you're going to, because I would hate to see you start something and not have time for it. But right now, it looks like you just need to establish some dominance where you're at, take some control. Do not make any moves, because you don't want to put yourself in a position where you will kind of work against yourself. It just looks like that's very, very possible. And that usually happens when we become insecure or vulnerable. And so that would be a good tip to follow. Don't do anything just yet, because there's going to be some things changing. They're going to require a lot more of your energy and your attention, and you're not going to have time to do both. I think it is a good company to stay at for a while. That's okay. So that explains it. I think you're going to be given some supervisory capacity to work in, and it's going to make you not want to move, but there's still going to be some frustrating stuff going on. Don't let it turn you into this, honey. because you know you can go there like in a New York minute. I've seen you do it. She becomes the devil. But I think it's a good place to be, and there's some kinks that need to be worked out. But it looks like they're being worked out, and it does look like you're going to have some more autonomy, some responsibility. Do you get anything, Stacy?
No, I'm watching it.
Okay, you're watching me. Okay.
Pull up the page. Was that the Page of Swords?
Which one?
What was your middle card?
My middle card was the 8 of Swords.
No, the other one.
Oh, it was a queen.
Oh.
It was a middle-aged, dark-haired woman with a domineering personality. Like the White Book and the Rider-Waite books. So I hope everybody had as much fun as we're having right now. We're turning into hyenas. We do that a lot.
We have our fun, that's for sure. Well, thanks everybody. That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun for us, and I hope it was fun for you. And thanks for coming. And next week, if we have a show, because it's Easter weekend, I don't know what's going on, but Glenn Klausner, the medium Glenn Klausner, is returning to the show. He came to my live audience event too, and he said, I want to be on your show again. I said, good, 2 weeks. So next week we have Glenn Klausner, but thank you. And thank you, Scott and Esoteric New York, for hosting us. And thank you all for coming. You were delightful to be here. And we will see you next time.
It was fun. Thanks.